Back with a review. This is a film that I did a trade with my buddy Andrew in Australia, and that is the classic masterpiece Suspiria, Dario Argento. I don't think many use the term masterpiece lightly because it really is a masterpiece. It's it holds up to repeat viewings. I mean, I think all good horror fans have seen this film. I mean, I don't really need to talk too much about the plot. It's really a pretty simple plot, actually. Jessica Harper plays Susie, and she has been sent off to a girls' boarding school or a ballet school, and turns out that the people running the school are witches. It's a coven of witches. And that dark secret unveils itself over the progression of the film. This film is a real technical marvel, a real masterpiece. One of the things that's interesting about it, if you watch it repeatedly, one of the things I noticed on this repeat viewing is that Argento didn't shoot the same way twice. Each setup of each scene is different angles, etc. And that in itself is kind of a marvel. I watched this. This is the Umbrella release, Blu-ray release, and it's a beautiful, beautiful print. Some of the Suspiria prints that have come out are relatively dark, and certainly the DVD editions have issues like darkness and color issues, but this was a beautiful print. I mean, I'm really interested in seeing what Severin does with their release. It's upcoming in 2017, but I got to tell you, I'm extremely satisfied with this Umbrella release. It's gorgeous, and the audio track, it's a 5.1 surround mix. Man, it tested my system. I've got an Oppo system, a Yamaha receiver, and then some 7 surround JBL system. It was bouncing. I mean, the sound was just bouncing throughout the room. And I'll tell you, the music, this is one of those instances where this Goblin soundtrack makes the movie. I mean, without the Goblin music, maybe this is just a really good horror film, but with it, it's a masterpiece. A la and analogous to really Carpenter's Halloween. Same deal. I mean, you put tremendous music to already a pretty decent horror film, and you get a really damn good horror film, or a masterpiece, as in the case of Suspiria. Is it my favorite horror film? No, but I think it certainly deserves to be talked about. When you talk about the best horror films of all time, it's got to be up there, and a lot of it has to be due to the music of Goblin. It just propels the film. It's creepy, it's unsettling, and combine that with some of Dario Argento's masterful set-piece kills. It's a really unnerving experience, an unsettling experience. It'd been a while since I'd watched it, and it got me a couple of times. Really from the first scene, particularly when the first 2 girls get killed. But the scene that I'd forgotten that I thought really kind of jumped me was when the hands come through the window and pull her face into the window. That got me pretty good. I mean, this is just one of those tremendous films that everybody has to see and must have a copy. And I would certainly say that at this point, short of what Severin's going to do with their release, this Umbrella release is awesome. It's got, besides the film itself, there's no audio commentary, but it is loaded with some special features. There's a 50-minute 25th anniversary making of. There's about a 40-minute documentary on the film. And then there's another 40-minute interview with Dario Argento as well. It's got quite a bit of good special features to it. I noticed a couple of other things about this, not to be too nitpicky, but and maybe people have seen this, but the scene where the girl is trying to escape the killer, and she's climbing up and looking through the window to go to the next room, and falls into that razor wire. I mean, it seems like she would have seen when she looked through the window that the whole room at the bottom is filled with razor wire. I mean, I'm not sure how you could miss that, but it's still a hell of a kill scene. But still, I mean, like, you don't see all the razor wire you're gonna fall into. I mean, The other thing I'd never noticed before until this viewing was Dario Argento's got a little cameo in this at about an hour and 15-minute mark. It's the scene just after Udo Kier's appearance, and he's telling Jessica Harper the backstory about the ballet school and that type of thing. Another older professor comes in to kind of finish the discussion on the witches, and you can see in a mirror off to the left Dario Argento watching the scene take place. I don't know if people have caught that. I'm sure they have. I looked at it after it happened, and I realized that I looked on IMDb, and other people have obviously seen that as well. The story actually has some basis in truth. A guy named Steiner opened a ballet school somewhere near Switzerland, in the early 20th century, like 1900s. He died in 1925, but there was some rumor that he was expounding on paganism and witchcraft as a part of his ballet school. I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of people that study and practice witchcraft and paganism in our world. I think that'd be safe to say. What a great film. And like I say, I think with the soundtrack 5.1 mix on this thing, if you got a really good stereo system, this will test your stereo system really well. Suspiria, Dario Argento. What can I say other than it's a 10 out of 10? It may not be, my number one, but that's a very elite. I mean, you're talking about micro differences in films. I mean, Exorcist happens to be my number one, but if this one's not number one, it's certainly in the top 5, maybe number 2. I mean, very, very close discussion. It's a tremendous horror film. I think the film also with its colors and lighting techniques, really, there is some, I think, due ode to Mario Bava. I think this film, with all this backlighting, the blues and the reds, it owes a tribute to Mario Bava, although I don't think Dario Argento will admit that. But certainly it felt like a Bava film on steroids with a lot of gore, in my opinion. The other interesting thing, in the interviews, Dario said that, of course, he was aware of the remake that's being made, and in his opinion, given how movies are made today, he doesn't hold much hope for it being a very good remake. It would be too expensive to do. I guess that remains to be seen. Certainly anybody can make a remake, and we know in our world today, everything gets rebooted. Very little has an originality to it. But maybe that's just Dario being Dario Argento, kind of narcissistic ego. But I guess we're going to find out, because I do believe there is a Suspiria remake finally coming our way. So we'll see what today's technology and dollars can do to hopefully produce a decent film. I mean, whether it is a masterpiece, as equal masterpiece as the original Suspiria, or it's a pile of shit, I'm glad that there's people out there recognizing this film for what it is, and hopefully it'll bring a much younger audience back to the original. So I don't really have a problem with this, the concept of the reboots. As far as the other things I thought about as far as this film when I was watching it, I had a couple things I wanted to comment on. There's an inherent lesbianism. It's an undercurrent of lesbianism in this film. And of course, Dario Argento has been accused of being misogynist, and this film is one of those centerpieces because the females in this film do have some pretty spectacular kills and brutal kills, multiple stabbings and things like that. But that's really kind of an MTV 20-second thought process when it comes to a film. It's really not taking a very analytical look at the film. It's just basically, to me, that's a knee-jerk reaction, because the reality is this film does as much to really put women on a pedestal as it does make them subjects of brutal murders. If you think about it, all the women in this film, the film is about women, strong women, in fact. All the men in this film of any magnitude are kind of weak. They're either ugly, they're weak, they're deaf, they're blind. They have all these different physical defects, whereas the women are beautiful and thought-provoking and power hungry. I mean, the power of the film that propels the film is women in this film. So I actually look at it as the opposite of a misogynic kind of film. I don't see that at all. I actually look at it just as exactly the opposite. I think that's the only other comments I wanted to make about this. The razor wire scene was probably the only scene that I'm thinking, well, that's kind of silly. I guess there's the other nitpicky thing when you start really analyzing the film versus just kind of enjoying it for what it is. In the first kill scene, the woman's getting stabbed, and it's obvious she gets stabbed, and there's multiple different rooms. So one minute she's getting stabbed, what looks like a normal room, and then it moves off into some kind of a strange, like nightclubish, strange room that looks like it's like a link chain wall that she's getting stabbed in front of. So there looks like a continuity error there as well. But like I say, I mean, those are just observations. I'm not nitpicking. This is a masterpiece. I'm not nitpicking it. They're just observations I saw after watching this thing a zillion times. So don't take that for being, well, he's picking apart Suspiria. No, I wouldn't profess to do that. All I'm doing is just saying these are some things that I observed after watching this thing for the upteenth time, and I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. Again, it's a 10 out of 10 movie. So, Andrew, appreciate the trade, and I look forward to the Severin release. But that is Suspiria, and I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate you watching.